Okay, so we're gonna do lab 4, mostly focusing on phishing. I want to introduce you to some of the tools that we can use for Kali, or with Kali. So we would use Kali Linux because it's easy and convenient. You don't have to recreate the virtual machine. You can just download it. So for part A, you just visit and download if you haven't done that. If you're using Edge, make sure that we click Save As and point to our downloads folder. And I just got it downloaded here because I had it and they had wiped my system. So once you have it downloaded, you're gonna right click, go show more option, 7-zip, and then we're gonna extract files. We're gonna click OK. That's gonna take a minute for it to extract. And that's basically the same step that we've been doing for the prior labs. So once your extraction is done, you're gonna open up your folder here. I'm still not finished, so I gotta wait for that to be done. And you're gonna access the blue icon file or the VBox file. If you want it to be fast before you double click it, you can go open up VirtualBox and change your processor and your memory settings. You can increase it to more core. I think it's equipped with dual core and 4 GB of RAM. So let's talk about PhishMailer. So I wanted to pull a little bit of statistic and kind of give you some ideas. A lot of times as a pen tester or an ethical hacker, you are going to work directly with the company to determine who needs the training, how often do the employees need the training, and we need to simulate phishing attack. So a lot of times we see that phishing funnels in through email. About 50% or less of the people actually were able to identify that is a phishing email. So the lack of security awareness training happens everywhere. And because of human error, this is where we would have malware and other issues in our system and networks. But on the other side of the coin, we have to know that it is job security, right? So therefore, you would see that this job is always in demand. So PhishMailer really capitalized, and when you see a lot of the phishing tool out there, they kind of mimic each other. You're gonna see that it's like the same interface because they use the same open source code, and then they just customize it a little bit and modify a few things. So some would have more feature than others. So whenever that you're using an email-based phishing tool, often that you would have templates. Some application would have more templates than other, and in this case, you would have 20. So you kind of have to see who is your group of target, right? Who's in that target group. Whether you want to use Instagram, Facebook, Gmail, Twitter, and PayPal, Spotify, etc. And that this list will also change in time. So developer or the people who create the tool would say, oh, you know what, I will add this tool and take out the ones that are less popular. So a lot of this, the intention is to what? Obtain credential information or sensitive information. So once we're done extracting, we can simply open up the unzip folder, its subfolder, and then open up Kali VBox file. And then we click start. And as we're using tool, I like to start out with updates. I think it's very important because you cannot install some of the tools without the updates. And keep in mind that most of these tools, 99% of them are written in Python and they have API. So you need to make sure that Python 3 is installed on your Linux machine that you're using or on your system that you're using the tools with. So that means that Kali already have Python 3. I don't need to install it, but you got to make sure that you check. And you can always do Python -- version or -v in the terminal. So once my system is booted, I would go ahead and log in. We could do Kali and Kali. So we know that PhishMailer is email templated phishing tool. We would start with an update. So simply by entering sudo apt update and then our password, which is Callie. And Kali Linux virtual machine, you can copy and paste it. So if you worry about, typing a certain symbol or if it's too long, you can always paste it in. So we need to go and pull the package from Git or GitHub by doing a Git clone. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this. So if you're doing that to save time, that's also good. But you can type so that way it helps you remember, because I feel like when I type the command, it helps me remember better. So make sure that you read the information that display here. It tells me that I'm successfully pulling down or cloning, right, their repository, which contains the code. And notice that I'm in home and Kali directory. If you use, it's good to make its own directory and put it in there. You just got to make sure that you navigate to it. Right now, we just simply putting it into the user folder, which is Kali under home. So after that, I didn't put this step in, but you can always ls, and ls would make sure that it checks to see if the package came in, there is going to be a directory or a folder created with its name. And you have to be careful with these open source tool, because sometimes they change the spelling of the directory, because it's either, they have to make a new version and they modify something. So they might have modified, and it is case sensitive. So making sure that you have everything correct. So now we're going to call on Python 3 to execute the .py, which is a Python file, because the application is written in Python script. So we are going to do a Python 3. We no longer use Python 2, right? Python 2 is no longer supported by the community. All the tools have been integrated with Python 3. So there are companies still use Python 2, but I really feel like, everybody needs to get to Python 3. Are there the difference? Yeah, there's some syntax different with. And you notice that when it has the directory, it would bold my text, right? So we would do a Python. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to cd. We're going to change directory to PhishMailer. So that will bold the text. And notice the path, we need to be in it. Now inside this is the Python file. So inside that directory, we would have the Python file to execute. So we're going to do a Python 3 and make sure that we type the name correctly, .py. So these are the menu options. You have Gmail, Snapchat, Dropbox, and so on, right? And then you can select the option for okay. So once it's executed, take a screenshot of this for number 13A. Where is your template saved? It would save here. Okay, it's in the PhishMailer folder. So when you modify the template, which is a file for these specific type of phishing email, then it would be saving there, unless you tell it to save in another location. So we're going to record the entire path. Did they take out 12? No. Oh, I'm just not scrolling back up. Okay, so we're going to use PayPal because I feel like everybody knows what PayPal is, right? Not everybody use all the other services, so I'm sure that you know some of the social media one. So right now, what we're going to do is we are going to simulate an attack using a PayPal template that would send out via email to a user. and hopefully they'll click on it and issue some kind of login information. So we are going to select option 12, which is PayPal. So you're going to type in 12 and press enter. And we're going to do a phishing URL. So ideally, I would, if I'm the attacker, I would take this domain, register it, right? Like pay for it and host it and do a little bit of design with it. But since, you know, we're only going to simulate this for practice, you can just put in an arbitrary website. But you see that I wanted to kind of stick with the goal of my phishing tactic. So I wanted to say PayPal login because I can't use PayPal.com. That's already been owned by PayPal. So you can play with this a little bit. And I figured, hey, they might have just a domain for a login and they might fall for that, right? So, but you know, normally a login is an extension of a website. So you would see it following with the slash. It's a directory or an extension of that page. So you normally don't see it as a domain on its own like this. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and paste the URL in here. And you can do this as many times as you want with different options so you can practice. Here, I want it for it to generate an IP address. So this application is able to do that. But if I had registered for this domain, I would put in that registered public IP address. So let's say that I pay GoDaddy some money, and you gotta also be careful about, you know, the agreement with the hosting company, right? The legal aspect of it. Okay. So sometimes you have to look at what is allowed and what's not allowed because it's still their equipment and their networks. Okay. So, and if you do a simulation attack like this for your company, sometimes you would reach out to them and let them know so that way they know, right? So that's just to cover all fulfillment with the legal aspect. Okay, so for the IP, I'm going to select option 2, where it's just going to do a pre-generated IP address for me. And it tells me here that for United States, it's going to give me this IP, which is option 5. And if I'm in some other part of the world, I can select these. So assuming that these are our servers, kind of, right? System. So take a screenshot of this for number 16. The reason why I have you screenshot it, so when you look back into your lab later, you would see what it looks like, right? If you don't remember. And then since USA is option 5, we're going to go ahead and type 5 and then press enter. Fairly friendly user type of application. And I wanted to keep my HTML file as PayPal login. So, and then press enter. You don't have to put the file extension. It's already going to fill it out for you. And then the text file is going to contain my PayPal credentials. So I'm going to keep that. And then press enter. So at the end of it, it's going to tell you that it generated this. And we are in the PhishMailer folder or directory. So we wanted to see if the files actually exist. So you're going to do an ls to list. So earlier, right, we already have the Python application. So now, right, we have an HTML file and we have the text file. So whenever the user type in their credential, it's going to store the username and password in that .text document. Okay. And then the user are going to see this file, HTML. It's going to serve them that. So when they click on the link or whatever that we give it, right, PayPal login link, they're gonna see whatever that's in the HTML. And they already pre-made this for you, so you don't have to code it in HTML. But if you're good at HTML, you can also modify it, right? So how can I open an HTML file? I just open it with the browser. And then, yeah, and then you can use the editor to fix your code, like Nano, or, you know, if you want to download Sublime or something, you can use those type of editor. So if PayPal has changed the way it looks and you don't like how the template look, you can edit it with the code, with HTML code. So HTML, CSS knowledge is helpful too. All right. So to really open this, okay, you're gonna not use the terminal, just leave this open. You're gonna go ahead and open up Firefox. I'm sorry. What did I say here? Yeah. You're gonna double click the icon, the folder icon. So open up your file manager here. Okay. It's like at the top, the third icon to the right. And then you're gonna manually navigate to it. So open folder. You're gonna follow the path. So remember that I'm in Kali and home. And then under that, I'm in PhishMailer. So I'm gonna go ahead and open PhishMailer. And inside PhishMailer, I'm gonna open up the HTML file. So we're gonna double click, and it's gonna use the browser to open. So it looks legitimate enough, right? It tells me that there is an unknown IP address somewhere in the world that's trying to access my PayPal account, right? Please confirm your security. And a simple thing like this, a lot of people fall for. So they would click confirm and they would type in their username and password, and that would be stored onto my text document or my text file. So once we have the HTML file open like this, we can take a picture. So screenshot this. So in your opinion, does that look realistic? Would someone use this web page? But remember that this goes into an email. Okay, so it goes into an email, or the link can go into an email. And if it doesn't look realistic for you, how can you make it better, right? Possibly, yeah, adding a little bit of their logo, more presence in that. But remember that if urgency is the key, right? If you give them too much time to figure out that it looks fake, then, you know, so. Okay. So after we had the template, we are going to make the email. And I actually registered for this account, so it's sending from that, and I'm going to delete it after this lab. So, and I tried, okay? I had gone through like a good 15 minutes of using variation of things like PayPal support team, PP support team, PayPal, like, you know, combination of those things. PayPal notice, a lot of those have been taken on Outlook and other like Gmail and so on. So this is what we're left with. Okay. So for step 23, we're going to come back to the terminal. So when you close this website and close your File Explorer or File Manager, it's going to take you to your terminal. We're going to do step 23. We're going to repeat the prior command. So up arrow key twice. You're going to open up the application again by running the Python file. And it has a feature to use to send phishing email. Is it perfect? No, right? You know that these are always going to be in development, so it is going to be good for a free tool. If you buy a tool, it might have more feature and it is more stable because, you know, the development side of that, they might put a lot more work into making the customer happy. I think open source development is great. It's giving us the opportunity to learn. And then sometimes companies would release a free version and a proprietary version. So you would see something similar but doesn't always have all the features. So on this, we are going to type in option 30. That's going to allow us to send the email. And in this, we're going to use it only once. But if you have other saved emails, you can choose number 2. So we're going to choose option 1. And then this is the from address, like where you're going to generate it from. So now when you create this account, you wanted to make it like what we learned about, how you want to display the name of this particular account. What kind of information you might want to say, you know, the first name is PayPal support. The last name is, you know, notification, something that would be generic, that seems almost like it's automated, right? And in a way that we are automating some of this. So yes. Give me a second.
That's right.
Yeah, so your templates is saved here, right? And then, yeah, so yeah, so it's writing. What step are you at?
I did this, but it was like, I was here.
Okay, you were at 23?
Yeah.
Okay, and you select 30?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so click here. Yeah, it's generating an error. So press Control C to come back to your pop-up for terminal. Control C for cancel. Control C.
I did come back to it.
Yeah, and then repeat that step.
23.
23. Yeah, if you have some kind of error, so make sure that we select send the phishing email option by typing in 30. Press enter. Just follow the step and then input 1 for send the email once. Put in the from email address. Okay. And then this is the actual password that I use to make the account. So password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
30 right in that there. Or we click on it.
So you have to do the Python.
I did.
You have it backwards. Python 3. Somehow that when you copy and paste, you switch it backwards. It's Python 3 PhishMailer.py. Python 3 goes in front of it. So the password for the email account, yes, you have to input that. This is the actual password that I created for the email account, right? But keep in mind that this step at the end, the output of it, you are going to see some traceback error because the email security that they have on Outlook, and that it's going to detect it right away and it might drop it. So, you know, tools are going to be as good as it's going to be. So you're going to, and when you use security tools like this, you know that you're going to have to attempt multiple times and different tools. Sometime it works, sometime it doesn't. Depends, right? If you host your own mail exchange, you have flexibility to open it up more, and the communication, you know, there's a lot of factor that plays into it, right? They secure their network. There's email security that's involved in some of, you know, like Outlook or Gmail or Yahoo and so on. So keep in mind, and then the agreement that you have with that is the aspect legal. So I'm only going to do it once for the educational purposes, because I read into the legal part, like, can I show my student to do this? And is it legal for them to do, right? You're learning and you're practicing, so it's fine, right? And the disclosure is that Dr. Nguyen is not teaching you how to hack and hack your neighbors. So we're just gonna be able to be good pen tester and simulate a phishing attack. So put in the actual password for the account here, okay? And that's a legitimate account. And then, you know, so what do you really want the recipient to see? I want the recipient to believe that I'm from PayPal, right? So I'm going to say PayPal support team, or, you know, security team, or, you know, something like in that area, because we're asking them to reset their password. So we have to be from a trusted source, and we have to have some authority, and we have to make it urgent. Okay. And then the email address too, right? So I tested this to see, you can put in your email address here. So I'm going to put in a false email address, but if you want, you can try. Okay. So I'm just going to say my email address at email.com.
So just to put the same thing you did?
Yeah, you can put your email address there if you want to test, because this is a legitimate email address that I use for this particular purpose. Is it gonna send you spam? No. Is it gonna, you know, leak anything? No, right? But and once you put in your email address, the subject line, right? We want urgent response. So whatever that you can do here. So this is the psychological social engineering factor, right? So you can say PayPal account compromise, or, you know, immediate action needed. So sense of urgency. So when people read that, they're going to be like, oh, I got to open the email right away. You want two things: the user to open the email. The second thing is the user to use the click button on that email and type in something, right? So enter the path. We know that the HTML file, we just looked at it and we took a screenshot of it. And then when you looked at it earlier, it's under the PhishMailer directory. So you can copy this path. And if you're not sure, you can go and do an ls, or you can open up and click the folder. So this will take a few minutes if it's connecting properly, right? Through the servers and the communication, the account, and if they don't block it, it's successful. If it's not, it's gonna throw a bunch of traceback error, which I know that it will, because anybody that work at Outlook or Microsoft would know that, yeah, these things gotta be secured. So their Exchange and all of that should detect, you know, outside of that, the user also report. So, but when we simulate, we just want to test, and I just want you guys to see what it looks like. Okay, so it might take a few minutes.
So I see you put in a specific versus email address to send to.
Yeah, you can put in your email address or a fake email address. I tested, you know, with my real email address there to see if it actually sends. But, you know, the error, you're going to see that it is a network connection because they block it. And I have to tweak. I think we can probably tweak the script. So if you have the editor, you can open up the Python file and you can see that error at that line, and you can modify something in there. Because it's looking for a certain port with that server. And what happened is it bounced back because of the firewall. So application firewall is working.
No, I'll try to do it.
I'll show you what it looks like. But anyway, any question or have any concern about those things?
You get an error code, you have to go back and redo it.
No, but see what that error code means, right? It will tell you that line, because two things happen, right? You got to establish connection to the server to be able to submit that email and send, right? That makes sense. Second things, the mail server has to accept it and forward it to the proper inbox. So if you have rules or security that's in place, it might not take it. Also, if you know the credential is not correct, the email is not legitimate, who it's sending to and who it's giving. So here, let's interpret the error so you can see. Okay. I'm gonna expand this real quick. It's telling me that this is the SMTP lib, and when it sends, it's sent to live.com. If Microsoft modifies their SMTP server, and if it might be SMTP1 live.com, it will not reach, okay? Because the code is written where the server is defined as with this library, right? It's going to execute the function from this library, and the object that it's using, it's using this, and this is the port number. Okay. Yeah. Huh? Yeah. So you might have a different number. I have to look it up. Yeah. So temporary failure and dangerous resolution, that just means that DNS is accepted. Okay, so it could be whatever the public IP for that. Yeah, so network unreachable, right? So that means that it won't reach to that certain port for that server. And then, so a lot of this is failed connection and port connection. So if the host doesn't open up the door to accept that traffic, guess what happens? It's going to bounce back. And you're going to see some of this, right? I'm not going to sugarcoat it because I don't want to write a perfect lab and tell you that everything works. And then you go out there and you run into this and you're like, she lied to me, right? So I wanted to make sure, but when you look at this, right, what can you fix? It tells you exactly what line is, and then go back and do a little bit more recon and say, okay, well, I need to find out, you know, what port they're using, scan. And then also, if their SMTP server is what is defined in the program, right? They might have modified it, so you can modify the script. It is a Python file, so you can open it up in any code editor like Tawny or Nano even. Go to that line and fix it, okay? Important. Okay, so it's telling me that connection failed. It failed to establish a socket. So without a socket, you can't, if you don't enable a socket, your server will not establish a connection. It needs that, right? And without a port that is accepted, we won't be able to connect. So it could be the program error. It could be that there are security filter that's in place. There's a lot of factor that we don't know, right? But if you simulate this for your company, you would have control of your mail server. You would have that information. You would have the port number that's using. So it's a lot easier to really set this up compared to if we're using, you know, third-party Outlook.com or Gmail and so on. Okay. And then it's always good to, you know, test it in an environment. So I would put the mail server on a virtual machine and host it, not the real mail server, right? So you can do it that way too. Okay, any questions? So screenshot this is fine. And then it says what type of error is shown. You can list the error that you see. If it's a little bit different than mine, try to interpret it and see why it's like that, right? Part of this is to understand and troubleshoot. And you don't always have a successful attempt in pen testing. Okay. Any question on PhishMailer? And you can play with like Netflix and other things, Instagram if you want. Okay, so social media's phishing, which is SocialPhish. This is also an open source tool. There are 33 templates for you to work with. Okay. And you can use the template to modify it to however you want. So let me minimize this. And I'm going to go ahead and do a git clone. So I'm going to pull from, if you look at the tutorial online, I know SocialPhish is very, 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 very popular. I'm sure that when you search it, it's going to pop up with all of these tutorial. A lot of the tutorial, if it's written a year ago, they have moved the Git. This is the new repository. Okay. So when you use a security tool, after 6 months, make sure you check because they update it a lot. Okay. Every so often they update their repo. So we are pulling down all the installation packages and we would have SocialPhish. And again, oh, so I forgot to back out of this. So it puts it in PhishMailer. If you guys are in here, that's fine. I forgot to tell you to go back to home, but that's okay. Right? We can make a folder, we can put it there. So after you pull the package, you are gonna access the folder. Also, if you watch tutorial video and look at video tutorial online, it's also incorrect. They have capital here. They changed that, right? The previous repo has that. The new version, all lowercase. So you're gonna do a cd SocialPhish. Make sure it's bolded. That means it recognizes that. And then I'm inside the directory now. You're gonna do, you're gonna add the execution permission. So you're gonna do a chmod, right? Plus X SocialPhish .sh, meaning shell. Now, not all application has a shell capability, right? Earlier you saw the other one, it only is able to run in Python. So you have to have Python, and then we can convert it to shell from Python. Okay, all right, I understand.
Thank you.
Yep. And then if you have a shell like this, you can execute it through the shell in Linux. So once we did that, then we're going to execute the program through shell. So you're going to do a // and then the name of the app .sh. So once the sh comes in, it's going to change your command to blue. And there it is, right? You're going to see similarity. They're going to have their logo. They're going to have like the menu option. So we're going to do Instagram. So we're going to do a 0, 1 for the first option, but you're welcome to test the other ones if you like. And then I'm going to do a port 443 because the new real Instagram is HTTPS, but you can do port 8080 like what they default to. So now what we're gonna do is here, right? Record the link. So it's giving you this host link right here. You're gonna copy it. Open up Firefox and test it. Paste it. Paste and go. And there it is. Does it look real? Somewhat, right? So hosted out of your computer is a fake page where people are gonna put in the password. Okay. We're gonna put in a username and password for now. So test user and password for step 40. I don't want to save, right? So it's gonna actually, so it redirects them back into the real Instagram.com, right? So, oh, the user must think, oh, you know what? I might have entered the wrong password, so I'll just re-log in again. Would not think twice about they just got phished, right? So tell me whether it looks legitimate or not. Compare that to the real Instagram. Screenshot it. What happens after the credential is submitted? Well, I was redirected to the real website, right? After. And that's coded into the application. What's shown on screen after I click log on button? The real Instagram website. Because after I got redirected, it brought me back to the login again. Would the user notice the difference between the phishing website and the real website? Maybe if there's distinguished logo or things that are frequently modified, right, it can be templated pretty quick because this is HTML, it's easy. And the same thing with Netflix or other things. So where's your text file saved, right? So we're gonna go ahead and close this after we see the Instagram. And it tells you that once you type in something, it's gonna save a file where your credential was stored. Okay. So your username and password, the test user and password that we just issued, it's gonna put it here. If you don't type it in and visit the site, it's just gonna stay as it was earlier. So here it tells me that this is my IP address, which is the system itself. It doesn't know where that's coming from because it's not a real public IP. And it tells me that this is the user account and that is saved to a text, right? So it's able to put all the plain text information display and that. And you can test it as often as you want. So where is it saved? Here. It's under site. And so my answer for that would be, it's inside the SocialPhish folder, right? So answer these questions and then put in the file path. So where can I find it? I would find it under my SocialPhish, all lowercase, under the sites folder or directory, Instagram directory, and then the file name is save.username.txt. And so I'm gonna cat it now so you can see. So we can go to CD. We can paste this. Oh. So let's just type it. So now we can do a cat. Save.usernames.txt. And there it is, right? We can read the file after you move into those folders. So it has 2 passwords and 2 accounts. I think this was generated by default. HHJJUU, right? That's part of the test for the application. So the first, and if you took Python, you know how easy it is to do a file output. So just do a read and write. To read the file and then write the file.
This one. Yeah.
So any question? So sorry, I think this should be lowercase. I don't know why that was an uppercase. For the Instagram, just make sure that it is exactly like the path that you have. So if you're already in SocialPhish, you would do a CD sites Instagram, which is the step that I did. And then you're gonna do a cat saved usernames.txt. So make sure that it is exactly like the path. I think it's the save with the ED. I had the instruction wrong. Usernames.txt. And you would see the account listed. It would be like this. I would have 2 accounts. I think the first one is just the test account for the app. And then the second account is the one that we put in to test. So test user and then the password. I really, really wanted to do this other one. Oh, I did have the mobile one. I had another one that was written and I was super exhausted, so I couldn't fix half of it. And but I will see if I can fix it later and I'll let you know. And I'll show you what tool that is. It's actually a toolkit. I previously used it and I really liked it, but they had retired some of the things in there and Callie took it off the list. So But anyway, we'll talk about that. Any question? Kind of fun, right? I can do this for a long time. Well, if the tool works, it's great. But if it doesn't, so I fixed a lot of the things already, right? If you just read the documentation and did some of it, sometimes they don't have the details. So yeah, it's always good to look into the documentation. This one I had troubleshoot a lot. Like it took a little bit to get through because they had increased the security for this. So, oh boy, it was a lot. And mobile devices are a little bit harder, just to let you know. Okay, so let's talk about, we already finished part C, where we learned how to do some social media phishing, right? Pretty easy using our SocialPhish. There are others. I think if you try Blackfish, there are tons of other ones if you look them up. Even like phishing tool in Cali, you'll find a bunch of them too. So you can use them and they look similar. So it's not hard to use. They already have the menu. You go through, there's step-by-step instruction for what to input. And then it's going to crank something out for you to test. But we can have it hosted on our system to test. So that's a good way to see. Okay, we're going to do a little bit of a harder one. And this one is going to require your account information because it's going to generate a secret key. If you don't issue it, you probably won't be able to see it. Okay. All right. So this is called the LockPhish. And this is a way that we can, you know how when you have a screen lock, right? Maybe a picture of you, a picture of your family, dog, cats, brother, sister, mom, dad, son, daughters, whatever. What you can do is you can have it added to the screen lock, and then that way when they type in their PIN, you can record it. But, you know, so the hard part is to get through this piece right here. Okay. So what we're gonna do is because this is using NGROK agent, it is hosted through the cloud. We have to pull it and we have to obtain keys. Similar to when you're using GitHub and you trying to get your GitHub to talk to Azure. Some of you did that yesterday with frustration, right? You would see that you're able to have recovery keys and keys that can be used for a system to talk to system in a trusted way. Okay. So all of these information, it pertains to pretty good privacy, security, and key rings, and then the agent between your server system and the AWS agent. Okay. And so we're gonna go ahead and do this. So basically we're pulling down the key rings that's gonna allow us to use LockPhish. Then after that, we're gonna get the repository. So this is gonna take a little bit. And you need to look at this right here. It is using HTTPS, so therefore you have encryption keys. No, I don't want that. Sorry. It's now in shell, so let me do another one. So I'm going to do a git clone here. let me rerun this because I think I ran it in a different directory on the previous one. So sorry. Yeah, you can do it at home with the home, or I had it under the last folder, so I need to get out of it. You can do CD to go back to home and then rerun it. Okay, so I regenerated the key rings, and then I'm gonna pull the Git repository. And it's gonna say that, do I want that? Yes. So ideally, this is supposed to get the key rings, but when you get the Git clone, it's supposed to also pull the key ring. When I was going through it yesterday, when I did this first and not this, or this only and not this, it was creating problems. So, but anyway, so what you need to do is you need to create an account, and that will require multi-factor. That means that you have to have an authentication app like LastPass, Microsoft Authenticator, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So, and then you can scan it to be able to generate a code, which is a value. Okay. I think. Give me a second. Let me go pull. And then you can also log in through your GitHub or your Google account or etc. I like to keep things a little bit separately so you can log in. And at this point, I guess, I don't know if I'm comfortable putting the private key online through my video like this. I might take it off screen share. Give me a second. API keys and things. Okay, so I think I'm not gonna do that. Because all right. So once you have gone through this process, what you will do is it's gonna give you a set of keys, right? It's gonna give you the breakdown for the keys. You can save it to a location where you can save your keys safely. And that's always gonna be for that particular service. Will you use it again? Yes, you can use it for you know, web hosting and using HTTPS for web hosting. So at the welcome page, you're gonna see, you're gonna fill out some online form. It's gonna ask you some information to validate. And then you're gonna get a connection page. This is where you're gonna get the command for your authentication key. Okay. Now, I had heft at it for half of a day trying to work on it based on the documentation without this part. And then I started reading into the service here and I was like, oh, I bet you they modified this. And sure enough, right? And then I went to read their documentation and it's definitely modified. So you must do this process in order to get this part to work. Okay. Now there are two components to this. Once you're done, you're gonna shell this. So you're gonna run it as a shell application. Then you're gonna open up Firefox and you're gonna see just like how you saw the Instagram one earlier, but it's using port 440. Some people say it's using port 8080 as that's just the hosting part, but from the client side, it's gonna access it. So if 8080 doesn't work, you're gonna use port 440. 4040, okay? And it's gonna give you the URL. That's the URL that you're gonna use for all the Android, the iPhone login screen, okay? So at least this is gonna show you how you can generate NGR, okay.
You said if it's not 4040, it's 8080.
Yeah.
It's
It's
done for me. Try both of them. Could it be another one, another?
No.
No?
Mm-mm. So on the if port 440 doesn't work, you're gonna run it port 8080 and then load the website with 8080.
Okay.
Yeah, so rerun this with 8080. If 440 doesn't load, rerun it with port 8080 and then open up your browser and do localhost colon 8080.
Find out.
Yeah.
the,
So after you sign up from the dashboard, right, you're gonna go to your email account that you used to sign up and click verify. It's gonna tell you that you need multi-factor and it's gonna give you a QR code. You're gonna use your phone and scan that QR code, but you have to have some kind of password management app. If you ever work with like tax.dmv, I think they use id.me or whatever, that's also an authenticator app management app. Did it work? Did it work with 8080?
If I run in again with the 4040, but. But could it be that there's HTTP 2 times? Or is that also?
No, that's the command for it.
Okay.
You can also use the shell command, the /NGORK, and then the HTTP after that. Yeah, you try 8080 and it doesn't work. I know 8080 didn't work for me yesterday. So you can try 4040. But on your dashboard, did it say 8080 on your command? Do you see? Because on your connect page, when you log
Be
in
on the batch.
and
or something about that.
NGORK, are you
Like,
still on the
Oh,
the
no, when I pretty much put on.
you logged into?
Yeah, I already like, I put in my,
You put in your authentication code? Okay. 4040 should go through, yeah, because the execution code from the connection page is 4040.
Did you put it on the same terminal or a different terminal?
I using Teamwork, remember? So I just cancel it and run it again before 40.
So it's like a user.
Yeah, so it just need another session, maybe it's just saving this in the session ID.
Are you running any other?
I was gonna say, I did not waste all that time in vain, because
So you ran the local host 8080 or 4040?
Like I'll start again.
So 4040, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
44. Namrock, HTTP, 2 dots, // I don't know the name to this stuff. Localhost.
Yeah.
4040.
yeah, you should get that link. So that link is what you would embed into their login screen, right? And so whenever that they would type in their PIN, it would communicate with your server, which you already set up.
40.
Yeah, it does a forwarding, so it's gonna stream all the PIN number that they would input. But this will not work without your authenticator app. Right, you can use LastPass, you can use Google Password Manager, you know.
Whatever.
Any good?
Yeah, I had an error again, authentication. I put the 4040.
So perhaps did you finish all the authenticator process? It gave you a key,
Yeah, I inputted the key.
and then you have all the code. Look at your connect page again to match. Back.
I put this here.
Install it. That's that. And then we run it, if you want it 8080, you run that as but if you wanted to generate.
Oh, I'm wrong.
And so it's telling you the error that we did. We're lost, why are we lost? What's that really lost? So you have a authenticator app, like something that saves all your passwords. Yeah, so you just use that and then open that up and then it's gonna activate your camera and you can see. Yeah, it needs the multi-factor. So you verify yourself with email. And then it's gonna tell you that it needs multi-factor. So you can use your app like LastPass, Google Password Manager, those. You open that up and it's gonna activate your camera. You can allow it only once. And then you can scan the QR. It's gonna generate, those digits. You're gonna input those digits into the thing. Yeah. Yeah, those numbers, so on the website, yeah, you're gonna go next, and then type the number, yeah. It's just multi-factor, so make sure that you are. Yeah. Sorry, it's still not loading the page, but I think they said that, yeah, so you see some of the activity there, so your server is working. It's just, you don't have a device connected to, so do you guys know why you getting that error, right? Like, you don't have the complete connection is because technically you don't have a device that's using that server, right? And generating something, but you should see the log for it. Should say that your NGORK is working and, etc. So if you connect with your computer, it would, yeah, that's what you want. Just a loop back.
I realized I run it last time I was still here. And then I did this and just again.
Good. So, yeah, so you ran this, you clone this, okay, so now you click on this. Just hold down Control key and push. Anybody else have any questions? Not bad, right? It didn't show me that.
We kind of break.
I did it, yeah, before I put it in. But this is break.
So it's I have to come down. Yeah, you have to sign up there and then.
So to sign up, just,
With an account.
yeah,
You have to go down there or is it sign up free?
here is,
Oh,
You put your real name in?
Yeah, so you're gonna run that line in the. That string
last name.
is your spelling.
It's on you. It's like making an account. Can't make a big one. You know, like.
Okay, so are we so confused with the last part? Are we good?
Very much. Still didn't work. It's our fault.
Let me see where you're at.
Oh,
She gets used to her.
I'll be,
She said it's first try.
so I just put
But
the email on screen.
we're good.
Whatever name I would do, I just please do it. It runs now.
Yeah, but when the server runs, it should give you the status of it. Yeah, so we just start the tunnel, yeah, it's not gonna connect, so we're missing something.
Sure you got the thing?
Still on the first turbo. Very well.
Yeah, because it's showing that you have error right there. Yeah, your, so, yeah, that's just the.
It's,
application.
the website.
But it uses OAuth. Okay, so if you're getting error, two things happen, right? Possible that your server didn't activate, so go back and check. Even though it gives you an authentication key,
Oh, yeah, it was,
yes.
do it again.
Yeah, so just do it again, and it's when it generates the key. And then if 8080 doesn't work, it should work. If it doesn't, you can use 4040. And when your server works, it's gonna pop up the terminal and it's gonna show you like what system is activating it. So what happens is it's used to stream all the values that they would input on their Android device or iOS to this particular server, and it is secure, so the session is protected. So it looks legitimate enough. So now, before this was not, it didn't have this requirement, but now they had integrated this requirement. So this is the proper steps to do it. Okay. And then when you go through, if you're able to see what information or what location the device is, I had tested with my PC and it did note that it was a PC. If you encounter error, that's fine, right? You can note that, you can screenshot it, and then you can shut it down. So upon completion of this lab, what do we learn about phishing and our phishing tools, right? Phishing is a way to get sensitive information, but there are many easy to use tools that are available, and you can name some of them. Okay. I want to show you another tool, and when we get a chance later, I'll show you. So this is a toolkit, not just one tool. It is Windows friendly because you always tell me, oh, you know, we're using Kali again. Like all my students are like, you love Kali. I said, it's because there are more tools for Kali. But you can download it in Windows. It has a graphical user interface. It does allow you to do a campaign or an analysis, especially when you're looking at very large enterprise, like corporate offices across the states. And it gives you analytics information, which is so great, right? When you're evaluating risk from the user, and then you would be able to put together an analysis for, you know, training purposes or even reporting type of mechanism. But keep in mind that this thing is not maintained, so it is slightly broken. You need to make sure that you fix some of the problems, but there are great components in this. I previously used it before. I enjoyed using it. It's just they don't have the resource to maintain it over time. But if you read the documentation, it's not a hard fix. It just takes a little bit of time to look at, like, you know, issues with plugins and so on. But Kingfisher is another one. You can look at Blackfish. You can look at, there are a bunch of other ones that you can look at, but today, huh? This could be messages or email, but it is a toolkit. So you have a lot more option than the ones that we were using. They're individual package. So toolkits are multiple packages combined, and it does the analytics. Kali retired this. They took it off of their inventory, but you know, so I wrote like 80% of the lab, the next part with this, and I just couldn't finish because I just didn't have enough time to troubleshoot the rest. But it does have database requirements, so you have to run Postgres because the data is going to be transported to that. But when you do the installation, there is a capability to run it in Windows, but Linux also. And then I thought that they have a Mac OS option through the terminal, but you know, so you can take a look at it. Okay? Any question? So make sure we complete the authentication process and then be able to see.
It should, you don't have to do both. Is that for one that you don't need to do? You have any authentication? Microsoft authentication. You need one of them.
You have Apple.